and he's in the middle of a tour. They've done about half of it, and right now, where are you right now?
Well, I'm taking a little break in Salt Lake City.
So how are you doing? Like, let me ask you, Anton, how are you doing?
Well, I took one of these tests today. It's still 2 lines. I feel a lot like I'm on cough syrup acid or something.
Okay.
I feel like I've been run over by a truck, but I'm okay, you know?
Okay, so with Brian Jonestown Massacre, I mean, there's a problem with a lot of bands. I mean, they have a bit, like a lot of 90s bands, they have a hit and they go on tour and nobody wants to hear the new album. But your Brian Jonestown Massacre is more like the Swans and Wire and some of these other bands that the fans expect to hear the new album. They want to hear new songs, and you know, you don't have to play the hit. You can just play like the new album. And what do you think about?
Well, that's the advantage of never having real hits. But I don't, you see, it's all in the objectivity level, I guess. It's something, you know what I mean? Like if you start adding up streams for an enemy or something, it's over 100 million.
Yeah,
way over. You know, so it's like, does that constitute a hit? Even is that gold even by standards? You know what I mean? I don't even know what they mean, because they'll say anything is a hit. You know what I'm saying?
well, don't you think like some bands like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, like, you know, the people will check out the new album, but they want.
Well, there's a big difference between business oriented music and music oriented music, because the single on a Black BMRC record was backed by a giant company with giant money that put that in your face saying this is important. So you compare that against somebody who just has a good song and people like it and they identify with it. So which one is which? Because, you know, as you may know, it isn't like the world is filled with journalists that come into the office once a month or once every 2 weeks, and they say, look, I got some great ideas for a story. That can happen, but that's not really what happens. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, magazines aren't really set up around like, oh, let's get all these great investigative reporters out there to figure out what's happening with music. There's very much a direction that things travel. So it's hard to really say, like, going backwards since I've been playing music, you know, what's all the way a street phenomena, I guess. You know what I'm saying? What's like this thing that appeals to people randomly, and what is a byproduct of, like, well, here they just put this food in front of my face and I'm gonna eat it, because that's very much the way pop culture works. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, look, a new Marvel movie, yay! It's like, you know, it's like, we have a new Star Wars series spinoff on Disney, yay! We're all into this. You know what I mean? Okay, but as far as playing, you know, I don't know if there's any rules, but I just know what I'm not interested in, you know, and that's, you know, it was suggested like one time, oh, you guys should go out and play your first record, or Methadone, you know, you should play that from start to finish. People would love it. Go on tour the world like that. And I'm like, no, because to me, it seems representative of somebody that doesn't, call me cynical, but somebody that doesn't have any thing to offer, and that's not really where I'm at. I would rather push myself to make new music.
Yeah, so I mean, when I hear the new album, The Fire Doesn't Grow on Trees, I think like, oh wow, this could be like Give It Back or Bravery, Repetition, and Noise, but it's like it's updated for 2022. It's right, it's happening right now. And I know when you started A Records, there was a lot of experimental records, longer tracks, you know, tracks based on beats and stuff. And do you just kind of consider this new album? I haven't heard the second one that's coming out later this year, but this Fire Goes on Trees is just kind of like, no bullshit, I'm just gonna go back to the source or something.
Well, you know, inside me I have like, once again, there's different types of artists, you know, like on the one hand, a real artist, you can kind of like pick apart what they're about by like 5 things that they're into. You can go, well, it's kind of like, you know, it's like you listen to Get Back, you watch that Beatles show and you're like, wow, this is amazing, but it's really just a Chuck Berry Fats Domino song, like 100%. You know, that's all it is. So you can see that 100%. Like if you just look at it objectively, it really is a Fats Domino Chuck Berry riff. You know, it's like he's singing like it. He's even got the voice. Get back, yeah, like, you know. And so a lot of bands are like that, right? So even U2 is like a big part of Echo and the Bunnymen. You know, they're a lot like that. You know, early on you could really tell. And then so a lot of bands, I don't know if you remember, like Talk Talk, they came out of the gate and they were kind of garagey, like more closer to us.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden one year it was like they picked up a Talk Talk record and just said, wow, let's go in the studio and become this. And then some bands just buy a leather jacket and a pair of sunglasses and become like, well, we're going to be the Jesus and Mary Chain, but a little bit of Love the Rockets or something. And then they just live it. But me, I you know, I have all these building blocks from the music that I like and the way that I see it. So one part of that is like, is post-punk, but then the other part of it's like, you know, psychedelic music, you know.
With this album, did you want to do something? I mean, the songs are all 3 minutes.
Well, all I wanted to do was be relevant at my age, try the best I can, because I felt like in many ways, over and over again, we're like faced with all these existential sort of crises. That's what it sort of looks like to me, no matter what you're talking about.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, well.
So part of it is like, there's different ways you can use a magic machine in arts, what I call a magic machine. You know, you could be really sad and flip it around, and people don't pick up on that. They just think it's intense or whatever. You know, like as you're doing this Gestalt thing, you don't have to like sing sad lyrics over sad music. You can switch it around, but also in that way that you're looking at what you're trying to say. And for me, like sometimes I'm just like doing affirmations to myself, but instead of singing about me, it's this tool that I use that I picked up when I was a little kid. See, the Beatles, instead of singing all the time that she loves me, yeah, 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 I want you to hold my hand, it's always like inclusive of the listener. Instead, they flip it around. Instead of all those eyes that they're turned into yous, even if they're actually singing about themselves. You know what I mean? Like, even if she's the kind of girl you want so much, it makes you sorry. Like, he's not saying there's this girl that I really want to hump or something. He's like telling this story, but really it's accomplishing the same thing in his own mind, except he's including the listener, like on this thing. I want to hold your hand. Don't you want somebody to love? See what I'm saying? And a lot of people, they don't get that, and they think that people are infinitely fascinated with their relationships, or who's done you wrong, or who's so hot, or what they're going to do for that chick at the club. And I'm not really interested in all that stuff.
So let me ask you about the stolen guitar. I mean, in 2006, you went to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Someone took the van or stole the trailer.
Everything.
Took everything. And then you got the guitar back. Can you tell that story real quickly?
Well, first of all, there was over 50 groups that were victims of this crime syndicate. That's what it's the only thing it can be. And they would steal whole tour buses. The Ravenettes, they ripped off Radiohead, they ripped off Sonic Youth, and it was going from that time when Sonic Youth was still playing. They lost their whole tour bus.
Was it in New York or was it in Detroit?
It was happening all over the United States.
Oh,
basically, they knew bands that had a lot of gear and they followed them.
But
I don't know specifically who did it, but ours happened to be in New York, and we lost everything. So fast forward, two guys come walking into a guitar shop in New York City, and they're setting up my 12 strings on the table, and where this Workman is, right? And so they go, obviously they'd seen Dig, you know, and they knew what my guitar looked like. They're like, oh my God, that's Anton's stuff that was stolen. And so they go, hey man, can I check that out? This is amazing. And they're like, no problem. And they started snapping photos of the serial numbers and everything. But they had the back, there was paddings on the back of the box guitars. And my guitars have Brian Jonestown Massacre stickers on it. They're like, what the fuck is this? Of course this is his. So then we jumped on that guy. They flashed him on Facebook and got it to me. And all of a sudden we had like hundreds of people calling saying, like, you don't even understand. That guitar is not to leave the shop. This is deadly serious. Like if you can't tell me these 100 fucking phone calls for fucking people screaming at you right now, you're not gonna get away with fucking working on this stolen guitar. Like that's it. Like this, whoever you gave it to, all you guys are having a visit from the police because this is real. And then, so eventually the guy said, oh, okay, to my old roommate, Hannah, we was able to like go down there and she was able to talk me into meeting. And then he said, look, okay, I it's clear to me that this is this guy's gear. Look, I got it off some old blues guy who got it off some junkie, blah, blah, blah. I just want what I paid for it. Turns out it was David Bowie's bass player from Young Americans.
Well,
Black guy.
Oh, okay.
And
not Herbie Flowers.
but the funny part about it is like, oh yeah, an old blues guy who's played a 12 string Vox Phantom. It doesn't seem very likely to me. It's the least blues guitar in the world. It's like the pinnacle of 65 garage rock, but it ain't blues at all. You know what I mean? There's nothing blues about that guitar. It even has this spaceship shape. You know, it's not a blues guitar. So, anyways, so I had a dilemma because I had already replaced all of our gear because I'm fortunate in a lot of ways. You know, I don't have a trust fund. We work really hard and we sell records. You know, like so we were able to do that. But I had a dilemma, you know, because I have stacks of those cheetahs. The red cheetah was my favorite guitar. I have stacks of that stuff. I've got a bazillion of them because I started playing those Voxes when they were like 700 and I loved them, you know. And also because of the problems with the junkies in my band early on, I figured out I can't have somebody come into the show playing the Ibanez because they pawned their guitar. I have to own all the gear. So if I throw them out, the sound stays the same as the records, as from the very beginning. Nothing changes. People come and go all the time, but it's still the same sound, you know? So anyways, I had this dilemma, and the dilemma was, look, I don't want to be paying all this money to buy my guitar back that I already bought, that was stolen from me. But then I didn't want people putting it on eBay for 10 grand saying, we know for a fact this is Anton's guitar, it's from this movie, blah, blah, blah. Normally, you know, it's worth like $4,500 or whatever, but we want 10 grand or whatever, you know, because of what it is, right? So Hannah just went ahead and bought them because I was going back and forth saying, I don't want to do it. You know, on the one hand, I don't want somebody selling it in my name, but on the other hand, I don't want somebody profiting on my misfortune or whatever. And then, so she got it. And the next day the guy calls back and says, so he said basically 1,600, right? So she pays for him, and the next day he calls back, I feel guilty. I actually paid 800 a piece. What a dick. He tried to pull off this, I'm doing the right thing. And then calls back. To me, that would be more humiliating. You're going to be that much of a dick, right? I don't care if your guilt got the better of you. You wanted to make good even after you double dicked down. You know what I mean? To me, that's just so nuts to just try and play like, okay, I want to do the right thing. I know it's this guy's stuff. And I want to see it get back to him. And all I want is the money I got for it. But you're just double charged. You don't say like, can I get a reward because I didn't know about the history? Or you know what I mean? Like a normal person, that's fair. Even if you wanted to ask, it's like, do you mind just throwing in 200 or something just because, right? I'm making this smooth for you. Like do you know what I mean? That's like sort of straight up and understandable. like the nature of getting rewards, but it isn't that full swindler, like, oh, I'm such a great guy or whatever. Now that you caught me red-handed, I'm gonna try and just milk it for even more.
I wanted to ask you about Joel Gion. I mean, there's all these in guitar music, rock music. There's all these. There's Mick and Keith. There's this guy and that guy. There, Anton and Joel. I mean, where did you? Do you remember meeting this guy? And what was your first impression? And can you talk a little bit about the friendship over the 30 years or so, plus years?
Well, you know, I used to see him when he was working at Restless Records, which was one of those, the big, I suppose the big three of record shops in San Francisco, and the hate would probably be Rough Trade, Restless, and Amoeba.
Right.
You know, I think Restless was probably from Chicago, based in Chicago, and the Angered one. I think that's the story. They're still out there in Chicago, right?
There was Rasputin Records, I think, too.
There's Rasputin, but that's over in Berkeley, wasn't it?
I think they had a San Francisco one. And there was I think there was a Recycled Records. I don't know. I think that was
there is, but you know, I'm talking about the big ones that you'd hit every day.
The Haight-Ashbury ones.
Yeah, but mainly had to do with the power of their import buying, because that's what we were interested in. I wasn't looking for Pearl Jam records or whatever that didn't exist.
And
you know, some like, what is it, like Mike Patton? What was it? Faith No More record. Oh, I got to get that hot new Faith No More single. We were looking for indie imports.
So it was mostly Rough Trade and Restless then.
Yeah. So I ran in there, and he was one of those buyers. You see him. He was one of those not knowledgeable people. And we would talk, and you know, I'd be trying to put my singles in. And eventually I was like, hey man, what do you think you want to try and play tambourine or something? But it ended up one of his roommates was this girl, and she had a party at his house, and we knew all the girls in the house that he lived with. And we ended up, there we go. We ended up playing in the basement, and that's when he finally came downstairs and did that.
Okay.
But that was like mad party.
And you just kind of like saw the guy, you go, this guy needs to be on the stage.
Well, I always had like tambourine like as a side person, even in my bands in Orange County. I mean, for the longest time, even when I was growing up. I mean, it came from, because, you know, I liked Flo and Eddie.
Oh, right.
And I liked Bo Diddley, you know, with Jerome, and I liked some of those even in the Association. It's like one of the dudes is standing there playing tambourine, just singing. That's all they do.
Yeah, the Carpenters like have sometimes they have a tambourine.
Carpenters a little bit different, but you know, it wasn't too out of our looking like at Brazil 66 or something, you know, like it wasn't far-fetched in my mind that the front person in a jazz context, there could be like a helper that people are just looking at, and then whoever's singing and playing piano, you know, like Sergio Mendes or something, or anything like that. In my mind, but I especially like Flo and Eddie in the sense that they just hopped on and off all these bands, you know. And one of them's really a good singer, but the other one just also is good at harmonizing and plays tambourine, just standing there looking goofy. And I always like that, you know.
Okay. So let me. Well, I mean, you've been doing music for a long time. I mean, you started in the 80s, early 80s. I don't know, maybe the 70s. I don't know. How long do you want to do this? Keep on doing records? I mean, you have 20 albums out. I think that if someone wants to check out Brian Jonestown Massacre, I mean, they should check out this new album, you know, but buy a lot of albums, you know, support music, you know, so go see them live. But like, I mean, you have 20 albums. That's more than most bands are kind of dead after 3 records. And it's like, it's already
getting better. It's so funny. I'm actually getting much better.
Okay, so it's like there's still more to come. That's gonna
well, you know, when I made up these songs, it's not uncommon for me, if I'm in a writing, I record 6 days a week, basically. But, you know, I have a lot of projects now. I even just did a whole TV show. So I do movies, I do whatever, you know, and, but not, I don't do any of the shit because I need money, if that makes sense, because I don't even need any money. So I'm happy to get money unexpectedly and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But I love to work. The money isn't the issue, and I can have long-term goals that are my payoff. See, so I have these long-term goals. But backing up a little bit from that, when I hit a purple patch, it's not uncommon for me to knock out 40, 70, 80 songs one after another every day, every single day, finish them. And the interesting thing is then I reach a point where I go, I'm going to put this down now, rather than just, you see what I'm saying? And to pick it back up, though, that's what's very hard. See, because my only experience in life is that people only get as far as they get. You can't ever count on it. And if you're trying to be real, it's a completely different thing than saying, I have this skill, I know this secret formula. Guy in Weezer, he's a mathematical genius. You see what I'm saying? Rivers is like, puts on all of Oasis's records and has a mathematical formula and could knock out whatever it was. Doesn't matter the band, you know? But I'm not like that in that way. So for me, I have to get into touch with what makes it relative for this like imaginary jury in my head. I can't really sit there and imagine like this imaginary demographic. Like, oh, this is really gonna fucking hit hard on the 18 to 38-year-old record buying population, or this set list is really gonna hone in on that same like ticket buying group of people. I gotta have just this collection of songs. See, I just got to go with my gut on that stuff. But you know, yeah, I've said this quite a few times. You know, people are so screwed up in their head about age and the validity of certain things. And if you look at pop culture now, it's just utter crap. At least in the 60s, the business people had this like duality. They even had young people signing young people. And if they had no idea what was going on. So they had people, they were quick to jump on anything that was, you know, getting traction and then copy it. So half of it was like this monkey's manufacturer that'll buy anything done really well. And half of it was like, what the hell? Who is this guy, Jimi Hendrix? This is insane, right?
There was a lot of weird.
But now this whole idea that you have all these people that have they just have a voice or something, and they give them the strum on a guitar or whatever, and they get 45 producers just to do remixes essentially of the sessions, put this stuff together, show you this is what is paid, or you know, my name is Jacqueline Tonoff or whatever. This is a beat that works, you know. And to say that everything else besides that cookie cutter machine is invalid, you know, if you use that same like mentality against Howlin' Wolf, what a cultural genocidal event that would be, because his music is so valid. He didn't even start till he was 60, besides doing field haulers, which essentially what that is like singing while you're working music, you know.
Well, white people weren't really exposed to like black music up until a certain time. You know, it was like there was a big divide.
That's not what I'm saying. He started all those what you know as Howlin' Wolf started at 60. Besides, that was just mopping floors or picking cotton or whatever he was doing.
You would hear
those haulers.
You would hear the Pat Boone version of the song or whatever. You know, of like black.
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter how old that guy is. The music is relevant and it will always be relevant. Part of like the lexicon of American greatness.
So you're gonna play like a blues player. You're just gonna play till you drop, like John Lee Hooker or Howlin' Wolf or these guys. You're gonna be like this guy,
or Neil Young or anybody else, I guess. Yeah. As long as I feel like playing. But I like to play music, but it is very hard to do. I don't know how hard it is for Roger McGuinn, but to play my music on those 12 strings and stuff for a couple hours. It's a lot. I think it's much harder. I'm trying to do some pretty challenging stuff. For me, it seems like it's so simple, but it's everything I make up is kind of at the edge of my ability in this weird twisted way, because a lot of times, you know, a lot of the music is like tongue twisters, even if it doesn't seem like the chords are moving very much. It's doing these rhythmic things and melodic things that are exactly like those, like tongue twisters, you know, like big rhyming tongue twisters, like she sells seashells by the seashore, and they're just gears that go inside out of each other. You know, there's a lot of things to keep on top of when we're playing.
Well, people of all ages are relating to the music. I mean, when I go to your shows,
yeah,
it's young people, it's old people, everybody's in line buying t-shirts, they're buying a ton of vinyl, and you know, they appreciate it, they like the shows. You and Joel seem something like some kind of connected to something real, to some authenticity in music, where, you know, you can just kind of discount a lot of these people as kind of, you know, as refried beans or whatever, you know, some kind of things. And but to you guys, they see you together, they go, this is authentic, this is Honest Abe, this is like Huckleberry Finn, this is like American music here, it's real.
A lot of times, all of us, though, everybody who's playing, like on this trip, you know, we stop and we go, we're hanging out on the tour bus, you know, driving down the road, and we're like, this is thanking each other, going, this is so important, because ultimately we just want to inspire other people to do their own thing, not like slip into this roles of like some kind of hero worship or idolizing, or some retro fetishism or anything. But it really has to do with subcultures, I think. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said before, the new album Fire Grows on Trees, it's as good as anything I've heard this year. And you know, there's not a lot of guitar music or, you know, kind of rock music out there, you know, that I'm hearing and stuff. But like, let me ask you one final question, since we're kind of going over time here. Are you after the you're gonna play a couple shows here on the West Coast, hopefully, and the rest of the American tour? Are you gonna play do a European tour later in the summer, you think?
Yeah, not in the summer. The way we have it worked out is so we finish up this tour, then rest a couple weeks maybe. Then it looks like we're doing Levitation in France.
Oh yeah,
right. I hooked up my very good friends Levitation with my people in France, my agents and everything. So that's been going for quite a few years now in France too. They do the big festival, and so we're headlining one of those days, and then Every Chills again, and then Austria. So let's see, that's June. So July we all fly in to play Austria, some festival. August, it's in Switzerland. We fly in and play this big festival in Vevey. My friends do this. It's like a boutique festival for like 1,800 people on the lake in the French side of Switzerland, on the big one, Lake Lucerne, Lumac, they call it, the living.
Yeah, I saw pictures of you guys a few years ago. You were on like a mountain or something, on the side of a mountain or something. Is that the same?
Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy ones, but that was, yeah. We played up way up. The cantons get these budgets. We played way up on top of the mountain. It was just like some ski lodge, you know, like
yeah, that one, yeah.
That was crazy. There was helicopters flying by, pulling cows off the mountains. They have like cow rescue helicopters for ones that get way up there. You know, there's no way you can get them off the mountain.
Oh wow! So you'll be out there. You're doing this tour.
But then, so anyways,
European tour.
October, then we'll hit all of Europe. Okay. Not just those festivals don't count for us for Europe, because we play the big halls and stuff, the big theaters. So we'll do all of Europe, you know, and Scandinavia and all that stuff. Touch wood, if it's not all glowing and radioactive by then. And then January, February, will be UK, and then we're looking at like Australia and the rest of the world after that, which is
Oh,
weird.
well, like, yeah, we're still kind of coming out of this COVID period. I mean, we've had 2
You're
years.
not coming out of anything, man. I
We're
just caught it at my own show. That is like the biggest bunch of hooey.
Yeah,
They're not testing anybody. It's going way up. It's going way up, man. We just played Philadelphia, and then right after we left, they ordered everybody to wear a mask inside everywhere.
Okay.
In public. It's not coming out of anything. It's going way up. It's that people want this to be over. Look at this. They want this to be over. It ain't over. This is my 3rd time around the fucking lollipop train shop, right? That's positive. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not over. People are over it. It's not over them. Not by far.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but how do you get the genie back in the bottle at this point? You know, it's like,
you don't, because there was too many idiots when they were saying, like, at the very beginning in this country, they said this is not real. This is a democratic plot to tarnish my great presidency and all that stuff. They had a chance possibly to nip it in the bud, but it was just not. It's simply not possible with the amount of disinformation and animosity in this world at this point to effectively do it. People don't work together. In places like Taiwan and stuff, yeah, they were able to control it, you know, where people are just not, they've just been through SARS there. They're not as stupid as everybody here. It's like, yeah, there are people that will take advantage of a global crisis, right? And it's like, oh, terrorism, let's pass some new security laws. And yes, there are people with all kinds of agendas. All that stuff's true. But that doesn't mean there's not a global pandemic of a virus, a respiratory virus that will kill you dead. Those two things can exist at the same time. Yeah. And that's the thing that all these boneheads in America couldn't get through their heads. They're like, blah, 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 it's not this, it's only a cold. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not only a cold, and here you go again. But, you know, and that's part of the animosity and the pure dysfunction is a great weapon, not only by neo-fascists to sort of hurt everybody into a like right-wing sort of politics, but also people who are just against American exceptionalism. If you can get Americans just to fight each other, right, and not be able to unify, then of course you're just like, they're just all doing their job for you. And that's why Russia has these media outlets and bot networks, because it's like all these people are just this dysfunction in the government and all that stuff. You know, it just works in their favor when you're trying to do anything, you know? Yeah. And I personally, Lawrence, you've known me a long time. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I was going to see people, this amount of dysfunction. Because I'm fine. I could give a shit what people believe, right? You know, it doesn't make me want to kill somebody because they're sleeping together or what they call themselves or whatever. You know, I'm not